Book of Amos, chapter 5, verse 26. But ye have borne the tabernacle of your Malak, in Chiun your images, the star of your God, which ye made to yourselves. Hmm. Let's see something here. Chiun is an ancient star god mentioned in the book of Amos in the Hebrew Bible, who is strongly associated with the planet Saturn. His worship is linked to the Assyrian name for Saturn, Kavan or Kawan, right? And the planet's slow movement led to its designation as a deity. It says the term Chiun may also refer to an idol or image that the Israelites carried with them, possibly in a portable shrine. And the Septuagint, a Greek translation of the Bible, right, identifies Chiun as Rephan, right, or Remphan, a name used by Stephen in the New Testament. Okay, so Saturn is playing a huge role with the god Chiun. So let's see what we can come up with, right? Star of Inertia. The star of Ninurta is an ancient Mesopotamian name for the planet Saturn. Saturn was identified with the Mesopotamian god Ninurta, who was a deity associated with war, hunting, and agriculture. Hmm. It says, alternatively, others identified him, Ninurta, with the star Sirius. See that right there? Okay. Now, let's do Horus, Bull of the Sky. Horus, Bull of the Sky, is a traditional Egyptian epithet for the planet Saturn, representing the god Horus's connection to kingship and divine power as seen in the celestial realm. This name linked the falcon-headed sky god, who symbolized the living pharaoh, with the strength of the bull and the planet Saturn. This is a concept that became more evident through Greco-Roman influences in later Egyptian astronomy. Hmm, okay. Ancient sun Saturn, son of the night, right? Shamash. Hmm, Shamash. It says fertility deity was associated with the fertility deity Ninurta. Okay, it portrays the sun and Saturn Shani as father and son, with Saturn representing the illegitimate offspring of the sun and his wife's shadow, a figure of unhappiness and discontent. Let's see the image of this Saturn. Oh, would you look at that? The eight-pointed star. Hmm. It says the cosmic axis theorem. I've heard that this ancient sun is actually a correlation or an alignment with Mars, Venus, and Saturn itself. The Venus is in the middle, in between Mars and Saturn. Mars is the smaller one that is being portrayed to cover Venus up. This is how Venus is shining with the 8 points. Then behind Venus is Saturn. They call this the ancient sun, Kaja Manu. As you can see, this planetary alignment has the light underneath Saturn, which represents the moon crescent, right? We're going to get into Venus in a sec, but I want to show you guys something. Star of Ainana. This is supposed to be Venus, y'all. But ain't this the same symbol that we just saw? Now watch this, right? Because this represents morning and evening. Star of Shamash, which is Ainana's brother. This is also the same symbol. Look at that. Shamash, sun symbol. Star Ishtar, right? Sumerian stock vector. So they saying that this is the same damn symbol. Okay? One phase represents this, the other phase represents this. This is the noon phase. At 12 p.m., that alignment looks like this. In the morning, in the AM, that alignment looks like this. At 4 p.m., the alignment looks like this too. At 8 p.m., it looks like their father, which is Sin, moon god. At the top right hand corner, you get the star of Shamash. At the top left hand corner, you get the star of Ainana. At the top middle, you get what we like to call the night phase, which is the moon crescent of their father Sin. These are three phases of the same star. Now, since we got that out the way, let's dive deep into the pentagram and how this relates to this whole thing. Now, let's go to Isis, right? Queen of Heaven. Isis is known as the Queen of Heaven because her worship spread from ancient Egypt into Greco-Roman world, where she was syncretized with other goddesses like the Greek Demeter. During the Hellenistic and Roman period, her title Queen of Heaven became more prominent as her influence and worship became more universal. Okay, Isis and Venus. Isis and Venus became associated due to cultural fusion as the Roman Empire spread, leading to a syncretic cult where the Egyptian mother goddess Isis was identified with the Roman goddess of love, Venus. Okay, Venus is a part of the planetary alignment. Okay, in her Greek equivalent, Aphrodite. This syncretism, or blending of deities, was common in the Hellenistic and Roman periods, resulting in figures like the Isis Venus, which combined aspects of both goddesses, emphasizing fertility and rebirth. Isis and Sirius. Let's see what we get with this. It says, in ancient Egyptian belief, the goddess Isis was deeply connected to the star Sirius. It says personified as the goddess Sabdet. Sabdet, Sirius, represented Isis in the sky and her heliacal rising. Okay, her first appearance before dawn. It says marked the start of the new year and the Nile flood, which brought life-giving fertility to the land. This relationship linked the star to the goddess's role as a bringer of life, renewal, and magic. All right, so let's go ahead and see Sabdet, right? We got to see Sabdet now. We're gonna link Sirius with Venus in a second, but we already know what the star of Venus looks like already because of the star of Inanna. So let's go to Sabdet, Egyptian goddess. That way they'll know what we're talking about because the search engine be on bull crap sometimes. Sabdet is the ancient Egyptian personification of the star Sirius and a goddess of the new year and the flood, right? So if we go to Wikipedia, would you look at that five-pointed star, right? Now, watch this. Eight, or how about rows of Venus? The rose of Venus is a geometrical pattern formed by Venus's orbital path as seen from Earth over an 8-year cycle. Over this period, Venus creates a near perfect five-petal shape, also known as the Venus pentagram. Hmm, because 13 Venus orbits roughly equal 8 Earth years, resulting in a fivefold symmetry. Let's also relate the Queen of Heaven, Venus, right, to Sirius one more time. Ka Ulua means Queen of Heaven in Hawaii. Says no, the statement is inaccurate, right? This is what they keep saying, right? But I keep finding it. I keep finding it. This is where it is, right here, right? It says its culmination at the winter solstice was marked by celebration in Hawaii, where it was known as Kaulua, Queen of Heaven. So you mean to tell me that Kaulua in Hawaii means Queen of Heaven? And Queen of Heaven represents Venus, and we all know that Venus represents a rose. Let's see, Roman goddess Venus. Look at that. Rose, right? Symbols. So we know what this is now. Okay. I do. Based upon what I've just showed you guys, I definitely know what this is now. So the pentagram that is on your flag, this five-pointed star, it represents the 8-year cycle of the star Venus. Venus is the morning star, right? This morning star is a alignment of the ancient sun Saturn, which represents what? The sun of night, right? Or a mock sun. All of it connects. Let's see. Sabdu, right? Sabdu and Venus. In ancient Egyptian religion, Sabdu, the Lord of the East, was sometimes associated with the planet Venus, right? Which he represented in his role as a falcon god. He was considered the son of the sky gods Sa, Orion, and Sabdet, Sirius, and his eastern association connected him with the borders and the scorching sun. Hmm. He was sometimes depicted as Horus Sabdu, a combination of the falcon god Horus and Sabdu. So Horus represents the same thing, Venus. Sabdu represents Venus, and so does Isis, and so does Horus, right? So we gotta understand, man, all of this boils down to the ancient sun Saturn. All of it does. This is why everything is connected the way that it is. Based on my interpretation, based on what I'm looking at, right? People might have different research. You know what I'm saying? This is just my research. This damn ancient sun keeps popping up, and they keep telling you that this ancient sun, Saturn, is probably Yahweh or probably the Most High, when it has nothing to do with the Most High at all, because he has no images, none at all. What does that say? I am the Lord, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images. For my own sake, even for my own sake, will I do it. For how should my name be polluted? And I will not give my glory unto another. He's not giving his glory to any images, bro. So Saturn is not the most high. So whoever's saying that out of their mouths don't really know the Bible at all. War god, right? You know who else is a war god? Mars. Mars, Venus, and Saturn, right? This is what we get. I'm gonna fuck y'all up with this one. Guess who's Mars, guess who's Venus, and guess who's Saturn? Jesus is Mars. That cross behind him is Venus. And that white circle behind that cross is Saturn. But I could be speculating. I could be speculating. Or it looks like eight sides to me. I don't know about anybody else. Constantine knew exactly what he was doing, right? I want y'all to really see this. hmm Represents what? Christ, right? The X and the P. This is what they tell y'all until you go ahead and see that cathedral. Then you got Alpha and Omega on each side. That makes up for the 8 points, the 8 pointed star. So we have to understand, right? These signs and symbols, a lot of these people are worshiping, right? There is a theory of the black star of Chemosh being the planet Saturn also, right? Star of Chemosh and planet Saturn. Based on ancient traditions, the Moabite deity Chemosh was sometimes associated with the planet Saturn, also referred to as a dark or black star. Remember, son of the night? The exact connection is debated by scholars, but it reflects ancient syncretism and astrological beliefs. Now, watch this. Chemosh and Baal Peor were likely the same deity, as Baal of Peor was a specific form of Baal worshipped by the Moabites, and Chemosh was the chief national god of the Moabites. While Baal could be a generic term for a local deity, some sources identify Baal of Peor with Chemosh. It says the Moabite god associated with licentious rites and fertility worship. Now you guys know. Let's go back to Amos, chapter 5, verse 26. Chiun, a statue that is idol, by used by euphemism for some heathen deity, perhaps corresponding to Priapus or what? Baal Peor. So all of these damn civilizations worshiping the same damn star, they try so hard to hide this. But you know what the eight-pointed star actually does to you? It creates something called ill omen. An ill omen is a sign or event believed to foreshadow misfortune or bad luck, like a black cat crossing your path or a bird like a strix in classical myth. The phrase can also be a proper noun for specific items in popular culture, such as the ill omen sword in the game Destiny 2, or a spell in Pathfinder, right? So they're putting this in games. But the sign of bad luck and misfortune, this is dealing with magic. Who is the lady of magic again? Isis, lady of magic. Isis is known as the Egyptian goddess of magic because magic was a central aspect of her divine identity, alongside her roles as the great mother, healer, and protectress of the dead. She was the most powerful magic worker in the Egyptian pantheon. Hmm. And her divine abilities were invoked for healing, protection, and bringing the dead back to life. I wonder why JC actually died and resurrected. It says her magical powers. were so significant that they became a foundational element of her worship, which spread throughout the Roman Empire and continues to the present day. Hmm, interesting. So, are we not going to address? Are we not going to address the elephant in the room? What does it say right here? It says distinctive, right? I'm going to start with distinctive. Distinctive features, including a Christology characterized by the belief that the Holy Spirit is Jesus' divine mother, and a first resurrection appearance to James, the brother of Jesus, showing high regard for James as the leader of the Jewish Christian church in Jerusalem. Hmm, where was this? It says it was probably composed in Greek in the first decades of the second century and is believed to have been used by Greek speaking Jewish Christians in Egypt during that century. Where in Egypt, right? Alexandria, Egypt. The first church of Saint Mark. There's no single first church because St. Mark, the evangelist, it says the author of the Gospel of Mark founded the Coptic Orthodox Church in Alexandria, Egypt in the mid first century AD. Other notable churches dedicated to St. Mark include the St. Mark's Church in Belgrade. Hmm, very interesting. The very first book, huh? Who was there a couple hundred years before St. Mark? Hmm. The Therapeutae were an ancient group of Jewish ascetics and philosophers living near Alexandria, Egypt, described in Philo's first century. It says, treatise de vida contemplativia, right? They dedicated their lives to contemplation, spiritual self healing, and allegorical interpretation of the Torah, practicing what? Strict asceticism, fasting, and solitude in separate cells. While similar to the Essenes, they differed by living in isolation and focusing on a hmm, mystical, mystical, contemplative life rather than communal work. So they are seen as the precursors of Christian monks. Therapeutic, precursor. The Therapeutae were a pre-Christian Jewish ascetic community in Egypt, as described by Philo of Alexandria. While they were not precursors of Christianity in a direct theological sense, their emphasis on contemplative life, communal worship, fasting, and mystical interpretation of scriptures influenced the development of Christian monasticism and ascetic practices in later centuries. Some early church writers, like Eusebius, controversially claimed they were an early Christian sect. Hmm. But most scholars today recognize them as a distinct Jewish group that foreshadowed elements of later Christian movements. Very interesting. So let's see. Their reputate, their reputate. Worship Asclepius. The ancient Greek physicians known as therapeutae served Asclepius as attendants of his healing cult. Now, wait a minute. So you're basically telling me that these were Jewish people that could have been the Jewish Essenes that worshipped other gods, including the Most High God? That kind of sounds like certain people that I know, right? Who got this idea of worshiping a man and the Most High at the same time? But I yield. Worship Isis. The Therapeutae were a Jewish ascetic community and did not worship Isis, right? I know something you don't know, but I'm gonna I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna let it be. Okay. I know something y'all don't know, but I'm gonna let it be for later videos, man. I might need it for later videos, so I'm not gonna do that to y'all. Let's see. Therapeutic, right? Let's do did the therapeutic worship Serapis. Oh, yes, it's possible. The Therapeutae worshipped Serapis, as some scholars, like G. A. Moss, suggest a connection between their healing practices and the cult of Serapis in Egypt, right? There is not conclusive, right? It's always the conclusive. It says, however, the evidence is not conclusive. The Therapeutae's devotion to Serapis is a broad interpretation based on their healing activities, which could also have been directed toward other gods associated with healing, such as Isis and Osiris. Are y'all hearing this? Look at this. Some scholars suggest the Therapeutae were a Jewish sect associated with the Essenes, located near the Serapeum of Alexandria and involved in medical practices. So, hold on. It said that they were worshiping Asclepius, right? Wasn't Asclepius a human physician? And then Zeus killed him? And then Zeus resurrected him because of Apollo? And then, after he resurrected him, which is a human, he basically made him into a god of medicine? That's the same as Asclepius, right? Ain't Asclepius represented as the 13th zodiac, just like JC is represented as the 13th member, right? Because he had 12 apostles. Look, man, we could go all day with this. We could go all day with this shit. This is the reason why I made this video. Okay, the reason why I made this video is because we have to understand that the Most High has nothing to do with anything that I just looked up. Nothing. The only thing that he has something to do with it is that he created the stars. And what did he tell us? Huh? What did he tell us? He told us in the Bible itself, in Deuteronomy 4, verse 19. This man told us, unless you lift up your eyes unto heaven, and when you seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord your God have divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. But the Lord hath taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as ye are this day. So the Lord made us the lot of his inheritance, saying, no, those stars, right? The moon, the sun, no, there's something even deeper than that. I'm showing you there's something deeper than that, and that's the Creator. I'm showing you that the Creator is making you the lot of his inheritance. So when you see all of these different deities work representing the same damn planets, representing the same stars and these motherfucking symbols, then you know that's not the Most High God. So when they tell you that the Star of Bethlehem, right? Let's get to it. When they tell you the Star of Bethlehem is the eight-pointed star, you got to question that. The eight-pointed star, often known as the Star of Bethlehem, is a symbol that has been used to represent the miraculous celestial sign that guided the Magi to the birthplace of JC. While many Christian decorations use a five-pointed star, right? The eight-pointed star is also a traditional symbol of this event and represents hope, peace, and new beginnings. You see how that sounds like? That sounds very positive. That sounds masterful, right? Not knowing these symbols are demonic. These symbols are pagan. The Star of Bethlehem is the star of bread because Bethlehem represents the house of bread. In Mesopotamia, the eight-pointed star, which is the ancient sun Saturn, represents Ninurta, right? The star of Ninurta. That's the star of Bethlehem because Ninurta represents what? Barley, right? Barley flour. Barley flour makes bread. Lord of barley. Hmm. He also represents Sirius, which is the pentagram, right? And then he represents Saturn, which is the octagram, the eight-pointed star. I mean, we could do this all day, bro. We could do this all day because I am sick of other people trying to tell y'all who y'all is. I'm sick of other people trying to tell y'all, hey, you're not the Hebrews. I'm sick of people trying to tell y'all, hey, don't mess with that religion. Don't mess with that God stuff. We gods and goddesses. You know how many times I hear that within a day with a brother or a sister that look like me that tell you about ancestors, right? Those ancestors are spirits now. You do realize that spirit conjuring is not good at all. You're not supposed to conjure any spirits. There's a reason why we can't see them. There's a reason why we don't have contact with them. But instead, you're going to believe everybody else except for the Most High God. I could go even deeper than this. This is just scratching the surface, but we'll be here all day. So I'm not here to waste y'all time, man. Okay? I just want y'all to think clearly. Okay? Think clearly and know that in Genesis 1, the Most High only created the stars for signs and seasons. Okay? That's it. He didn't create stars for you to worship it. All praises to the Most High. Shalom to anybody out there that knows the truth. Shalom to you. Shalom Baraka. I'm out, man. Y'all have a good day.